Welcome, Coleman Certified SBA 7A Loan Liquidation Training, Office Hours. Lance, what's with the tie?
Bob, I just think this group is special because of all the certification courses that I've been involved with, Bob, you know how I feel about liquidation. And I hate to take up time at the beginning of a course telling a story, but I had a bank that had a loan that they had attempted to get paid on the guarantee 7 years ago, Bob. And they had given up. And they sent me sometime use some of the things in this course to hear the email CEO of the bank. They were paid on the guarantee, and the things that we're talking about in this program and the information that we're covering will help these participants understand how to get paid on the guarantee. But Bob, this is one of those where it was found money for the bank, and they got about, I think it was $180,000, and in the scheme of things, the CEO was just bubbly about it because this was $180,000 they charged it off, and they got it back.
Well, good for you. I'm glad that the students are being instructed by the expert in the field, so that's nice to hear. We see a lot. Shout out to Stearns Bank, Bank of North Carolina, Metro Bank. I know there's more of you on the line. Thank you for joining us. As we've said, and Lance, I know will hammer this home, this is really an important part of the learning process. We love the questions. Lance can expound on it. We want you to be able to be in that position to find an extra $180,000 for your institution. So that's why we're here. Where do we go? We have polls. Oh, we want your questions. I'm sorry. I need to follow the script. If you didn't email a question, that's fine. Just go ahead and send a question to Joseph at that, or you can use the GoToWebinar interface, and we will play Stump the Instructor. But let's ask some poll questions first. Have you ever developed a written workout agreement with an SBA borrower who is in default?
Now, Bob, I asked this question during this week's training. We talked about some of the things you need to do on a site visit. And if you go into the SOP 5057, SBA strongly encourages the bank to try to find a way to work out a loan that's in liquidation. So just wanted to find out if anybody out there had had an opportunity to do a workout on an SBA loan and develop that written workout agreement and there's some requirements in the SOP related to it, but just wanted to see what the exposure was there.
43% have done that, and 50% have not. That surprise you?
Not really, Bob. Again, it's something that SBA encourages. Two key takeaways on a workout, and I know we're not doing takeaways at this point, but workout agreements need to be in writing. And secondly, I'm using the wrong hand, Bob. Secondly, there has to be consideration from the borrower in order to get a workout agreement. And there's some other things, and we covered that.
The late vote tally, we have a recount, it's 50-50. So half.
Good deal.
How often do you complete a file review of your SBA loan for potential loan exceptions? Select one.
Bob, you know how I feel about file reviews. Quite often people close an SBA loan and they forget to review the loan for exceptions at the appropriate times. And, this example I gave at the beginning of the course talking about getting them paid on something they'd worked on years ago, one way to avoid that is by doing systematic file reviews, identifying exceptions and clearing those exceptions, and then when it comes time to do your purchase demand kit, you've got a good quality demand kit that will get you paid.
By the way, the answers are anonymous. We are not reporting them back to SBA, just to be clear. 25% do it at closing. 13% or 12.5% of my math is right, do it at the final disbursement. We'll give it 12.5 for loan goes into liquidation. And 50% do all three.
Just wanted to point out that none of the answers is an incorrect answer here, Bob. They're all correct. My two absolutes, excuse me, Bob,
Sure.
on file reviews are after the final disbursement and when you put the loan in liquidation. Those are the two absolutes, but all three of those are excellent times to review your file.
Next poll question. Have you ever had an SBA loan that was put into liquidation and then we were able to move it back into regular servicing?
Bob, on this one, SBA has some very specific guidelines in the SOP 5057 about when you can move a loan back into regular servicing. Typically, it just requires it requires that the loan be current, and once the loan becomes current, there has to be 3 on-time principal and interest payments on that loan. There's some other requirements if you have a workout, but I just wanted to see what our class had as an experience here. 1/3
have had that nice experience. 2/3 have not been able to do that.
Great.
Week 1, liquidation expectations. What's the takeaway you want us to remember, Lance?
Well, I think just understanding when you put a loan into liquidation. Of course, things have changed during this year, Bob. Putting a loan in liquidation used to require sending a servicing action to either the Little Rock Commercial Loan Servicing Center or the Fresno Commercial Loan Servicing Center. In February of this year, it changed. You, the participant bank, have to put your own loans into liquidation through E-Tran. Now, one thing I wanted to throw in here, and I hope I covered it in the training, once you put a loan into liquidation, I highly recommend that you make a call to the servicing center a week or two later and just ask them. You want to check on the status of the loan and make sure it's in liquidation according to SBA. Because as we go through this course and we start talking about the purchase demand kit, you can't even do a purchase demand kit, Bob, if it's not in liquidation status. So that's a very important step. The other two takeaways, one is the site visit. I do believe the site visit is a critically important part of the liquidation process, and it's one of the easiest ways to avoid repairs on your SBA loan. And the third is the importance of the liquidation plan. There are a lot of things in the SOP, especially in servicing, that do not require SBA's approval, but it doesn't mean that you don't have to do it. And the liquidation plan is one of those things, Bob. Every loan that goes into liquidation should have a liquidation plan with a calculation of the net recoverable value. And those are both things we covered this week. So it was a very important week in liquidation servicing.
We have some questions. Let's go to the first email question we received this week. We have a loan that is 70 days past due. We have put the loan into liquidation via E-Tran. Do we need to do a liquidation plan on this loan, even if there's the possibility that we think maybe we hope that they will catch up with the past due payments?
Bob, this is an excellent question because it's not unusual for a bank to have somebody that gets past due.
Are we dropping
One
there?
thing when the loan is 60 days past best practice when I'm managing an SBA, but obviously I'm going to let everybody hear whether you think it's going to be caught up or not. And one of the they'll put it in liquidation and they've got a borrower saying, hey, I'm going to pay a couple payments next month. They don't do the liquidation plan. They don't calculate the net recoverable value, and they wake up, the loan's 120 days past due, and they still haven't done something that they should have done 2 months ago. So the answer to this is do the liquidation plan now.
We seem to be having internet problems at our end. I dropped out, but I came back, and you were still talking, so I assume you gave the correct answer. Well, bring up the second question. Is he talking? Yeah. Okay.
So that's 150 past due. We're just now putting the loan into liquidation. When should we do? If you have a payment default on your SBA loan, the post-default site visit should be done 60 days from that event of default. So, if 60 days past due is the mark where you put it in liquidation and you consider it in default, then you've got 60 days to complete that. The other site visit time tickler is when you have a non-payment default. That could be a borrower or guarantor filing bankruptcy. It could be somebody filing litigation against that borrower or guarantor. But a non-payment default site visit has to be done within 15 days of the event of the non-payment default. So in this particular case, the site visit should have been done 90 days ago. Now, here's something I want to share with you. Just because the SBA's normal requirement on this would have been 90 days ago, as an SBA lender, don't ignore it. Do it now. The loan, Bob, that I was talking about that was 7 years old didn't have a site visit, and I actually sent them out to do a site visit at that point. Although there was no collateral, there was nothing really to look at, I wanted to be able to fill that requirement in the purchase demand kit wrap-up and recommendation for charge-off. And even though the site visit probably didn't reveal any information, it filled, SBA PDK's wrap-up kits is putting square pegs into square holes, and it's important to have that site visit in place. But in this particular situation where the loan is 150 days past due, you need to do the site visit Monday morning.
Lance, thank you. And again, I apologize. Thank you for taking over. I don't know what's happening at our end. Interesting question. Great question. Is there an E-Tran 101? How do I use it?
Well, the one thing, and this is a great question, Bob, because, of course, most of you know I was deputy director of the Little Rock Commercial Loan Servicing Center. And the two servicing centers, most of our participants will use Fresno, although the Bank of North Carolina is one of our banks that's participating in this. You're going to use Little Rock. Both Little Rock and Fresno, Bob, have an E-Tran specialist on staff. And I think that your point of assistance for E-Tran would be that E-Tran specialist. I know that in Little Rock, we had Rose Frazier. Rose Frazier was the E-Tran specialist in Little Rock, and Fresno has a counterpart. So I would reach out to your servicing center and just ask them, do you have an E-Tran specialist, somebody that could help us with E-Tran? The other thing is I'm happy to field questions about E-Tran. I don't pretend to be an expert, but I'm proficient at it. And then finally, SBA does at times offer some training related to E-Tran. Bob, maybe we should do that.
Two specific points. Number one, feel free to email. If you want to know Little Rock, email Lance. He'll get it to you on both Little Rock or Fresno. Also, Joel Steiner, the director at Fresno.
He's a wonderful guy.
If you send him an email, Google him. It's Joel Steiner, Steiner, I think, at SBA.gov. Say, hey, I need help with E-Tran.
He'll take care of you. Hey, the other thing, Bob, I want to tell the participants, if you go out and visit the Fresno Center,
yes.
Joel is a very cordial, wonderful man. He throws a party every time somebody comes to visit, so
and also
let him know in advance.
And the same thing applies for Herndon. Vanessa's wonderful.
She is.
I think for all of you, it's well worth your time to next time you're in D.C. or even take a separate trip to go to the center. They'll give you a nice 2-hour tour. You'll be able to put faces with names. They roll out the red carpet, and they're very user-friendly to you. So feel free to take advantage of that, and tell Vanessa Coleman and Lance said to do that. She'll.
Hey, Bob, I want to throw one thing at, since we have a question about ETRAN. One thing I'd like to share with you, and this is a best practice, and a lot of people forget to do this. For instance, we had a loan the other day where we needed to extend the maturity date. At the bottom of your ETRAN servicing screen, there's a save button. You have to save everything that you do. And probably the most common mistake in ETRAN that bankers make is they'll make the changes, but they don't take the time to go down and click the save button. And so you wake up 2 months down the road, the maturity date hasn't changed. Or you wake up 2 months down the road and the loan's not been put into liquidation status. And I know that's very elementary, but always make sure and click the save button at the bottom of the screen after you've made changes, servicing changes in ETRAN.
Very good. Lance, give us a preview for week 2.
Is Joseph? Yeah. Week 2, we're going to talk about litigation, and quite frankly, this is a place where I think I see more mistakes made in the servicing of a non-performing SBA loan. And it's not, there are requirements that the SBA has, and the SBA SOP 5057 clearly points that out. And one of the requirements, if you're going to engage in litigation on an SBA loan, you have to have a litigation plan. Now, not all litigation plans have to be approved, but any loan, any SBA loan that has litigation must have a litigation plan in file. Secondly, we're going to help you understand when you need to submit those litigation plans for approval. The reason that becomes so critically important, probably the largest source of care and preservation expenses are those legal fees related to litigation. And I mean, I'll just share one example. I had a bank in the Midwest that had spent $28,000 in litigation, and they didn't do a litigation plan, didn't get it approved. Those expenses will be kicked out. All it takes is walking through what we're going to share with you this week, understanding and preparing a litigation plan, and if it needs to get approval, make sure you do that, and then those expenses would be acceptable, and when you have a recovery, you'll be able to take those out of the recovery, and SBA will allow it.
Tell us about the reading. What have you assigned to us for reading?
Well, I sent the litigation plan tabs for you to get a chance to take a look at what they look like, and it seems like most people who participate in a program like this would have been exposed to it, but Bob, so many bankers have never even looked at the litigation plan tab, so I thought we'd get to take a look, or get an opportunity to take a look at that. I did share a good article that I think is impactful in dealing with SBA borrowers' bankruptcy, and a top 10 practices for lenders dealing with problem loans. So I think it's all good reading material and very supportive reading material of studying the litigation plan, the approval process. So I think it's a good mesh between the reading material and what we're covering next week.
Lance, in my underwriting training, I actually assigned the 1919 and 1920, the borrower information form and the lender's application for guarantee. I said, hey, I want you to read this from the C-level suite, from a 30,000-foot level, and take the time and try to understand why SBA is asking for each question, and it will enhance greatly your understanding of the process. Same thing with litigation tabs. It's nice to take the time and read them out of the heat of battle, out of having to fill it in, and ask yourself the question, why is this here? Why are we doing this? And it greatly will enhance your ability to prepare these packages.
Well, and a great example, Bob, you're talking about sharing with them the 1919 and the 1920. When you submit a loan GP, you're going to have that because you can't submit it to SBA for consideration. But if you're doing a delegated authority loan like a PLP loan or an express loan, one of the, not most common, but a very common thing that I find missing when I do file reviews are the 1919s. And you would think, Bob, those are the two primary lending forms now, that wouldn't be the case.
I would imagine if you don't have a 1919, you don't have a guarantee. Is that a fair assessment?
But the beautiful part about it, Bob, is that's something you can repair as long as you have a cooperative borrower.
There you go.
So,
yeah.
And that's the key to this course. All this information that we're covering. If you miss a deadline or you have a missing form, there are so many things that you can repair, so many things that you can recreate. And what I want to encourage this group to do as you're working through this course, use this Friday afternoon session as an opportunity to ask me specific questions about loans that are in liquidation that you're working on.
A couple questions have come in. This one was from Jessica Lance. We have a loan that has closed down the business location and is in the process of doing a business restructure. They continue to make loan payments in a timely manner. We like that. But do we need to do something? Do we have to transfer this to liquidation? What do we do?
This is a prudent lender question, Bob. And I've dealt with this with a number of banks. You do not have to put the loan in liquidation because, there's a non-payment default issue that occurred, but you have to use prudent lending to make a determination whether you're actually going to put it in liquidation. A lot of it depends on the cooperative nature of the borrowers and whether you as a bank think it's prudent to let them continue down that path. I would say in most circumstances, if I were managing a loan like this, I would let them continue to make timely payments. I would do a site visit. Good. Even though it's not required, I would do a site visit to get a full handle on the business location and what's going on there. But this is your call as a prudent lender. This is one where you either could or could not put it in liquidation. And I think that site visit's going to tell the story for you on whether you need to put it in liquidation or not.
Good advice. Question number 3. We have 2 SBA 7(a) loans to the same borrower for a couple of burger restaurants. One has closed, but both loans remain current. Do I need to put the loan for the closed restaurant in liquidation due to non-payment default?
Bob, this happens incredibly frequently in SBA lending. You do 2 or 3 locations, one of them gets in trouble. I have a loan that I'm working on with an individual who had 3 locations and had an SBA on each location. One closed completely, and it was an $800,000 loan. They've continued to pay on all 3 loans. Now, the bank could have put the one loan in liquidation. Technically, when you have a closed business, you could put all of those loans in liquidation. But in this particular instance, if you've got a borrower that's keeping it current, again, it goes back to prudent lending standards. Ask yourself, as a commercial lender, if it were not an SBA loan, and I had 2 burger restaurant loans and they both were current, would I send a demand letter?
Good.
And in my experience managing an SBA portfolio, again, I'd do the site visit. I'd make sure that things are okay. I would have a visit with the borrower, but I probably wouldn't put it in liquidation.
Great advice, Lance. I hear you typing. Do we have another question? Oh, it came up. It's up on the next one. If we come to an agreement with the borrower on a workout plan, do I need to do a liquidation plan? If the loan collateral is business assets consisting of inventory, can I prepare a workout agreement with the borrower to sell the inventory back to the franchisor to pay down the loan balance, then extend the loan and put them on a payment plan? How long can I extend this loan?
It's a multifaceted question. Yes, you need a liquidation plan in the circumstance where you're going to have a workout plan. There are a couple reasons for that. One of the key elements of a workout plan is the workout plan. One of the areas of consideration that I always recommend the banks use is if you don't perform perfectly according to the workout plan agreement, we're going immediately into liquidation, and this is how we're going to do it. The liquidation plan is going to help you to develop information to have that area of consideration fully discovered. So yes, you need the liquidation plan. Now, you're asking about an extension. A lot of it depends on what the original term was, and the collateral probably could answer that question more definitely for you. So whoever submitted this question, if you would just send me a few more details at lance@colemanreport.com, I'll give you a very specific answer to it, because I just need to know what the original maturity date was, what the original use of proceeds was, and then I can give you some specific answers on how long you could extend the maturity on the loan.
Great. Last question. We'll be through with the next 3-4 minutes. We love the questions. Appreciate it. We haven't stumped you yet. We're going to try in this one. A liquidation plan does not require SBA approval under CLP. Does the workout plan require SBA approval?
A workout plan does not require SBA approval, but Bob, I want to say that with a caveat. A workout plan usually includes one or more servicing actions to help the borrower get from being in default to current payment status. Could be a deferment, could be an extension of maturity, could be a reamortization of the loan. So the workout plan itself does not require SBA's approval, but there could potentially be servicing actions. Now, a deferment doesn't require SBA's approval. An extension of maturity does not require SBA approval, but does require SBA notification. The kind of things that might require SBA notification, some workout agreements may have someone assuming an ownership position in the business. That would require SBA's approval. So the workout plan itself doesn't require SBA approval, but just make sure you take a look at the servicing actions within that workout plan, and if they require approval or notification, make sure that gets done.
And you go into workout plan in greater detail in the course, I believe.
Yes, sir.
Great. Well, very good. One more, yeah. Well, I won't go beyond the bottom of the hour, so let's go ahead and put this up real quick. What are the typical terms accepted in an offer in compromise? Large paydown versus forgiveness. Can you answer that in 1 minute, Lance? And I know you spent
I'm going to answer it in, Bob. We cover this very specifically later in the program. An offer in compromise is a release of a guarantor. Just want to make sure you know all offers in compromise require approval by SBA. There is a tab system to do an OIC. And just to kind of wrap it up, Bob, the minimum offer that SBA will even look at is $5,000. Offers in compromise can be a challenge, but Bob, I've gotten half a dozen of those OICs approved. So they can be approved.
And my takeaway for the managers is use offer and compromise as a way to shore up any document deficiencies that you have in the file, and therefore what you're doing is say, hey, borrower, work with us, and we're going to try to get this done for you.
I think you make an excellent point, Bob. The workout agreement and the offer and compromise are both opportunities to clear exceptions that require the borrower's cooperation.
Right.
So one of the considerations you're going to have in both circumstances is a requirement. It's just that the borrower, it's like errors and omissions. The borrower will come in and help correct any document deficiency that the loan has.
Great. Well, with that, we love the questions. Thank you very much. I respect your time. We will never go over 30 minutes, and we took it. So we will enjoy week 2.
Look forward to seeing you next week, and share those or send those in to Lance@ColemanReport.com or Joseph. Love your questions. We want these Friday afternoon sessions to provide as much information as the week's course does.
Great. Enjoy the weekend. We'll talk to you next Friday.
Have a good weekend.